Hi everyone, my name is Pragna Nidumolu and I'm the founder of EcoTeens, an initiative that helps raise awareness of climate change and how teens can come together across the globe to do their part in making this world a greener place for them and future generations to live in. As a part of EcoTeens, we launched a podcast called Green Stories to bring diverse perspectives on sustainability and what we all can do as global citizens to address climate change. Today, we have a very special guest in this episode, Jutta Eckstein. Jutta works as an independent coach, consultant, and trainer. She has helped many teams and organizations worldwide to make an agile transition. She has a unique experience in applying agile processes within medium-sized to large distributed mission-critical projects. Jutta has recently pair-written with John Buck a book entitled Company-Wide Agility with Beyond Budgeting, Open Space, and Sociocracy. Besides that, she has published her experience in her books, Agile Software Development in the Large, Agile Software Development with Distributed Teams, Retrospective for Organizational Change, and together with Johanna Rothman, Diving for Hidden Treasures, Uncovering the Cost of Delay in Your Project Portfolio. Jutta is a member of the Agile Alliance, having served the board of directors from 2003 to 2007, and a member of the program committee of many different American, Asian, and European conferences, where she has also presented her work. A few of her specialties are agile coaching, process coaching, retrospective, project management, and quality assurance. Recently, Jutta has become a passionate activist for sustainability. Her work is based on the United Nations Agenda 2030, which aims for the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are focused on 3 areas: social, environmental, and economic, which are also known as People, Planet, Profit. Now, let's get into the questions. As we all know, every business has an accountability towards protecting our environment and contributing to the global sustainability. However, several businesses, including large corporations, are not stepping up to the task to their fullest potential. While they are focused on their business outcomes, how can they contribute towards global sustainable solutions?
So, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. And I need to do a small correction. So my name is pronounced Jutta. Kind of, you can remember the state in the US, like Utah. So actually, if you ask about the corporations, then, well, not sure where to start. The one thing is that I have great hopes, being based in Germany, so sitting in Europe, where the European Union has already agreed that they will enforce a law where companies have to, and I really want to emphasize that, have to report on their sustainability efforts. And this will be true for all companies with more than 250 employees. So it's actually at the moment here in Europe more the question still kind of, okay, how can this report happen? What do you exactly measure? And what makes companies accountable? And I would think so. The way you introduced the whole topic, pointing out the 3 pillars model, people, planet, profit, or social, environmental, economic, where all these things are coming together. You can also take a look at the triple bottom line, which also is based on these 3 pillars, but takes that maybe a step further by saying, okay, and as a corporation, you are accountable for each and every of those pillars, and you have to really show how you're making progress on each one of them. And maybe one other thing that just comes to my mind, which I most recently learned, So I have been attending the Agile conference, and I have been sitting on a keynote panel, which was based on planetary challenges. And there was a colleague of mine, Pia Fatsunabu, and she's working for Go Climate. And she said the way, or what they came up with, how to really make companies accountable is actually, well, it sits in that name already. It's looking at their accounting. So if you look at all the numbers there in their accounting spreadsheets, systems, wherever, you can also conclude from that, what are the biggest issues? Where are the levers you can take so that they can make a difference? So this is, I think, a really great idea. And again, so this is new to me. So I just learned that.
Thank you. I totally agree. And also, as businesses, they should also have their own responsibility to take care of this planet, because everybody has to contribute their own little piece. Thank you, Jutta, for saying that. My next question. The United Nations Agenda for 2030 aims for 17 Sustainable Development Goals, as I mentioned before, which individuals and businesses have to participate in. How can we build more awareness and bring this to focus? Because many times I see we all go about our business as if these goals are not our business.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the thing that I'm doing, that you are doing. And I think by having podcasts like this, or like that panel I was just referring to and so on, I think it is that we are increasing the awareness and also maybe create more pressure. So my forecast is, and probably this is more a hope than anything else, is that companies, organizations, corporations, they will have to focus on this in order to find and keep talent. Because there are more and more people, like, for example, you. I guess you wouldn't work for, let's say, an oil company, or, the company has to show and really make it clear what they are doing in terms of sustainability. And because in most of the parts of the world, there's actually this shortage on finding talent. This is a big argument. And besides of that, I really think the same is true with customers and markets. So I also see that there are more and more people who say, well, I really want to know what you are doing. And it's not enough that it's maybe a great product. I really also want to know how you create it. What else are you doing as a company? So again, it's kind of my prediction that this will happen, but it's also my hope. And by doing more of the stuff as we are doing right now, I think this hope will come true.
I totally agree. And I really hope that we can find more of these like podcasts or panels as you're talking about, or just more things to bring awareness to people about how sustainability can really change the world and how we can make it a better place for the future generations, because it's not just about us. My next question. My mom, just like you, is a passionate Agilist, and I grew up learning and implementing Agile practices for my schoolwork, pursuing my arts, and most recently to establish this organization, EcoTeens. And when I heard that you're doing phenomenal work in sustainability using Agile principles, I was very thrilled and I wanted to learn more. So for our audience who are watching today, can you please touch on briefly what agility for organizations means and elaborate how sustainability can be achieved through Agile practices?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, as you mentioned, agility comes with values and principles and also practices. And probably the biggest change there was between Agile and whatever has been done before in terms of software development. This is where Agile is coming from. So the origins is in software development, was that in the past, pre-Agile, it was expected from the clients to come up with what they really want, write it down, and then the software developers just take that and they are hiding for maybe 2 years, and then they are presenting their solution, their software system. Now, well, the planet keeps on turning, meaning that by the time the software was developed and presented to the client had actually different needs. And also then experiencing the software, then the client realized that, well, actually something else would be much better than what I thought 2 years ago. So the big difference for Agile development to pre-Agile is to be in a really close contact and continuous exchange with the customer in order to find out what is it that they really need and want. And this has been taken to all kinds of levels, which does mean, well, we try to get feedback on everything we are doing, not only from the client, but also from like the system tells us something. So how well does stuff really work together or not? And how fast can we move forward? Maybe we are building something that hinders us for really making progress and so on. And with that feedback, we then keep reflecting on what kind of helped us making progress, what hinders us, and what do we need to do differently in order to get better. So this is kind of, I don't know if it was brief enough, what Agile really does. There are 4 values, and there are 4 values that come with Agile, and this is about transparency, self-organization, continuous learning, and constant customer focus. So I've kind of translated them already from what's almost our Bible, I don't know, the Agile Manifesto. So if you look it up, agilemanifesto.org, so there you will find the values and principles. And the thing, what I learned when I co-wrote my most recent book, the one you also mentioned about company-wide agility, is that we realized if a company says it's agile, and also if a team says it's agile, it comes with a given expectation. And just to make this more obvious, if a team says it's agile and then people find out the team is not inclusive, not diverse, not welcoming, then people would say, well, I thought you're agile. And similarly, if a company says it's agile, well, of course, the same is true with inclusion, diversity, but also if you think about paying fairly or polluting the environment, people would say, well, how can that be? I thought you're agile. So although it's not really part of the values, principles, but there is this hidden expectation to being responsible towards the ecosystem that's surrounding you as an agile team or an agile organization. And so this is where this comes from. Now, I'm not sure, I can go on and on. So like, what are you now doing with it? Because you touched that topic as well, because what we are looking at, or which is also kind of my work that I'm working on, is if we are now looking at sustainability and we are in the agile field, so then you can be sustainable by agile, which means you use exactly these practices, mindsets, values, principles, and help solving the climate crisis. For example, I have been working with a colleague of mine, Steve Hollier, for an NGO on environmentalism, where we help them with the skills practices we are having to create their next campaign. And so I just put that out without explaining what it is, so people can look it up. So we use stuff like open space and event storming and story mapping, which are all kind of agile practices that we are using. And so this helped them to make their next steps. But also other things, like I know a colleague of mine, Nicole Bellilos, she was a Scrum Master, which is an agile role, for a group of refugees who were creating a food saver app. And those refugees came together under the umbrella of something that's called Hack Your Future, which is a Dutch organization helping refugees to show their talents so that they get easier their next job. And so she helped there again with her agile skills. And that's sustainability by agile. And then, sorry, I keep talking. There's also sustainability in agile, which is that we also need to, sometimes I refer to that, we need to do our homework, which is that we should, as agilists, use sustainability to guide all our actions and outcomes in the way we are developing. So, as I said, we are coming to our origin as software development, and software comes also with a carbon footprint. Or software is sometimes the reason why not everyone can use a system, so because it's not inclusive enough. Or software is the reason why, well, the life is not improving for everyone everywhere, which is now the economic pillar, putting it back to the 3-pillar model, so that people, planet, profit. So that would be the profit part. So it's these two things. So how can we use Agile helping maybe others, but also what are we actually doing and can we do better?
Thank you so much for sharing that. And referring back to what you said before about companies saying that they're agile, or like teams saying that they're agile, I think it's very important for them to be transparent, because as you said, agile is like it's supposed to mean something. You cannot take away from that word. Like, if you're not being inclusive, then you're not being agile, and you cannot be saying that you're agile by saying that. And I think sustainability does play an important role in agility. And thank you so much for mentioning that too. Okay, my next question. My work is predominantly motivating teens to do their part towards building a sustainable and resilient planet. So with more distractions than motivators, youngsters today are struggling to see the big picture. And as a thought leader in this space, what is your advice to the next generation and actionable steps that can be taken incrementally?
This is a difficult question. So the one thing that I think about a big goal like saving the planet, can it be any bigger than that? I don't know. It always feels like you're not doing enough, whatever you do. And from my experience working with that NGO for environmentalism, I got that impression, as great as it is for them, because they are really doing purposeful work. So this is their full-time job, right? So this is what they are doing. Yet you could sense how hard it is for them, because they are so emotionally connected. And it often feels like whatever they do, again, is not enough. So it feels like fighting for a hopeless cause. And I don't have a really good advice here, but I think you need to be aware it doesn't matter what you do, because the thing is, you never know what impact it will have. So it can be a super small step, and maybe the step itself isn't really a big thing. Like, for example, what I do kind of all kinds of things in my personal life. So one of the things that I'm doing is, and I'm not sure if they're even existing in the US, but in Europe, or especially in Germany, but other countries as well, we have these stores that sell their stuff unwrapped. So you bring your boxes and you fill up in your box whatever, rice, noodles, no matter whatever you need in a grocery store, but it's not pre-packed. So there's no plastic, there's even no glass. So you bring it where you want to put it in. And I just think this is great for the planet and whatever. So this is excellent. However, me doing this doesn't make a huge difference, because there are so many people in the world. And so it's not the big thing. However, what we realize already here, well, the one thing is I talk about it to my friends. And so more and more are looking into that store as well. So this makes us more. And also what you can see already, again, this is privileged as I am being in Germany, where maybe the awareness is a little bit bigger, that even regular grocery stores are looking in some areas into that and provide the option that you bring, at least, for example, your own kind of a net where you put your tomatoes in. And it, again, it's not pre-packed also. So there's more and more happening there. And so what I mean is a small step can still have a big impact, although you might not know it at the moment you're doing it. So I think my advice is do whatever is possible for you to do. So don't try to make a step that's not in your reach. So make it something that's possible for you, really. And that might be completely different from one person to the other. And another thing that comes with that, well, maybe two things. Be patient. Because that step might not change the world, at least not now, but maybe at a point in time. And the other thing that's maybe more important is you will never be perfect. And that's okay. I think this is something we have to accept, especially if we think like, okay, we really want to make a difference, but there are always things that are just too hard, maybe because of the environment you're living in. Like, as I said, I can imagine in the US, there are not these unwrapped stores. Okay, maybe now because I'm talking about, there's one of your listeners who says, oh, maybe that's my business idea and I will create the first store in my city. Well, that would be one thing. But so you might not be able to go there shopping because it's not existing. So that's kind of my point. But maybe you find something else.
That's really, really cool. I've never heard about these unwrapped stores before, and I think it's a really, really good idea too. And we should definitely implement that here in the US as well, because it's such a sustainable way, and also it promotes people to bring their own stuff, so it helps them as well. Currently, we have a 5-cent charge for plastic grocery bags, which also promotes people to bring their own bags to bring their groceries back home. But I think completely unwrapped and you bring your own bags, it really does help. And each small step does contribute to the bigger picture. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. How do you usually stay sustainable in your everyday life?
Well, on the one hand, I don't know if I do, but I just keep trying. And actually, the pandemic was for me a great thing to do. So maybe this comes together with the Agile thing. So I really like to experiment. So I experiment and then I get feedback and then I try it differently and then keep trying. And some things don't work out. Yeah, well, what I do is, for example, I create my own detergent. I create everything I use in the bathroom for myself, really. I try different recipes and mix it together. And so I just create that. And that's really fun for me again. And well, I also know, depending on how much I will be traveling, and speaking of traveling, so see, I'm still flying, which is not a good thing. So I'm not perfect by no means, right? I compensate, I offset. the flights, and for everything else, like we don't have a car, but again, that's possible in Germany. So we go by train or by bike if it's in the city. Yeah. And but you asked me what I'm doing. Well, yeah, I go by bike. I don't know. Maybe this is just kind of yes, experimenting with whatever I use in my everyday life, and try to do as much myself. So not buying too much convenient stuff, prefix stuff, which is also healthier, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it's also good for me.
I definitely think people can take some of these tips to heart, like biking everywhere. That's not something you'd usually see here. But again, that's definitely a great way to stay sustainable, and taking public transportation. And in the future, when electric cars become the big thing, that'll definitely help as well, because pollution is a really big problem in some areas, and traffic and cars really contribute to it. And biking and public transportation, as you mentioned, is a great way to stay sustainable. My final question to you is, what is your message to the community? What do you want everybody to know?
Well, it is super important, and I guess you are listening to it, and Pragna, you're doing it because you know it is so important. And so probably the message is never give up, and keep doing like one step after the other, which is again a very agile thing. So we always think in aiming for a big goal by doing like one step after the other, and the more people who we are doing this, the easier it will get to reach that joint goal. So this is what I hope for us all to do. Thank you.
It's a very great, thank you so much. And I really hope some people take that to heart and really think about what you just said. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. And it was such a pleasure to talk to you. See you in the next one.